6, 5, 4, 3, ignition, 3, 2, 1, 0. Roger. Liftoff. Liftoff. Bravo, Fox away.
This is your Colbycast, a weekly roundup of news from the Colbyjack.net world headquarters, flavored with a healthy dose of fiction. Push the button! Welcome to Colbycast 35 for August 10th, 2011. Man, did I get sidetracked last week? Well, no more. This week we are right on to business. Okay, this has been bugging me for a bit. See, this was a few weeks ago when everyone was playing the, "Oh no, we can't do anything about the budget unless you give in to all our demands" game that they ran in Congress. I know, it was kind of fun. Everybody paid for their seat and they got a good one. I know. No politics. But this is different. It's not politics. It's just that as that crazy brinksmanship shite was happening, I was watching this crazy British sci-fi show called Hyperdrive. It's a crazy little thing I fell onto on Netflix. The series is a whole 12 episodes long. And it's like Red Dwarf crossed with Star Trek. Okay, here's the premise. The HMS Camden Lock is tasked to protect British interests in a changing galaxy. What they mostly spend their time doing is trying to get aliens to invest in industrial parks in the north of England and Wales. A Wales that appears to have recently rejoined England. The how they left is never told. It's awesome so far. Their guns look like crutches. Their captain is Space Commander Mike Lucky Jack Hendo Henderson. It even goes so far as Henderson's Space Force file says, and I quote, "Henderson rose through the ranks in exactly the way we say people can in the recruitment ads, yet endeavor to prevent in practice. Henderson shows initiative, always a dangerous sign." They have a nice group of psycho characters, including First Officer Eduardo Pauline York, which is a borderline sociopath, convinced at any moment the shiny red robots of Vortis are going to come and get you. He also has the ability to hold his breath for 7.5 hours in order to avoid the effects of a sedative gas. And it goes from there. Okay, get this. They have this enhanced human, Sandstrom, who directs the ship while appearing to dance with a space made up like someone's idea of a micro strip club, complete with lighty things that react to her. So she dances within the space, the ship moves through space. Well, in the first episode, Tech Officer Jeffers dares Navigator Vine to see if she ever lost her balance and fell off the platform. They do get her to fall after a series of gyrations that rocks the ship during an attempt at lining up investors for a business park in, let's say, Surrey. Good stuff. So what the frack does this have to do with the insanity that ran around Washington in July? Well, it was this. There's this episode called Asteroid. The Camden Lock has orders to keep two parties from starting a war over a rock. Basically, they're supposed to buy time until the Americans arrive to sort it out. Space Commander Henderson has higher aspirations, and when the hopelessly elite alien race and the primitive-seeming alien race refuse to negotiate because they know the Americans are coming, Space Commander Mike Lucky Jack Hendo Henderson takes matters into his own hands. In a move seen in every Star Trek series as well as in the Bible, see King Solomon, he gives orders to destroy the asteroid. The countdown starts. 5, 4. Both aliens quickly realize that this is a ploy out of a movie and call his bluff. Henderson realizes at the last moment it won't work, and before he can stop his crew, good luck with stopping them from using weapons, the asteroid is destroyed, creating even more fun for all. While everyone can have their own moment of believing who blinked in our latest asteroid episode here, the ramifications for the crew of the HMS Camden Lock are fun. That is what's so awesome about this series. If there is a trope to be smashed, they do it. So if you have a Netflix account, try them out. Otherwise, I hear there are other ways to seeing some awesome low-budget sci-fi. Speaking of low-budget sci-fi, I hope you're enjoying the Mouse Queen Remastered. Nifty title, eh? I made that up just for this show. And are having fun with For the Win. I really enjoyed recording Corey's work. There's a lot of energy in there and room for thought. Speaking of thought, I believe I promised to tell you another reason I have for running Edgar Rice Burroughs' A Princess of Mars. This actually relates to For the Win. While reading, everything leading up to the launch. The Game of Rat and Dragon, Subjectivity, The Eyes Have It, The Night of the Long Knives, and For the Win. I found that the deep reading I do while performing these longer form works has changed my writing and the way I spin words. I see the work differently after I perform it. Plus, this is crazy. There are certain works that are foundational to the genre today. No one can ignore the impact that Edgar Rice Burroughs had on the scientists, engineers, and thinkers of the 20th century. Heck, there were probably peeps on the Viking Project that hoped they'd actually see a Martian princess. And well, it's a tale I would think about reading, but never get around to. So, if I schedule it for a Colbycast, or... oh my god, it's 67,000 words long. Okay, carry the 9, subtract the 3, somewhere between 13 and 16 episodes. Oh, man. Need to check the length ahead of time. Well, I said I was going to do it, so I gots to. Anyway, my first meeting with Edgar Rice Burroughs was when I was about 10-ish, maybe later at 13. Either way, I remember checking out a pile of stories from the library. And I can't remember if I actually read them. I was more of a short fiction chap back in the day, not the serial man I am now. Honestly, I can't remember if I read them at all, or just read about them on Wikipedia. Or was it the stories told me by Keith V? Keith V was a man, well, he still is, he's alive as far as I know, a man with an immense love of Edgar Rice Burroughs. He came into Rogue Traders, the comic book store I used to run, and showed me all the levels of a work that the world had forgotten. It was amazing, and I think of him every time I think of Edgar Rice Burroughs. Either way, we start that next week in Colbycast 36. So be ready for that. It's going to be crazy Martian fun for the next several months. Right now, we are getting on the last leg of the crazy train with The Night of the Long Knives by Fritz Leiber. This series started in Colbycast 29, so if you need a recap, head over there. So grab your trusty knife, chlorine tabs, and lucky towel as we journey into the land of Neverwhere in the moment of Never When for the 7th and last episode of The Night of the Long Knives by Fritz Leiber. The Night of the Long Knives by Fritz Leiber, Chapter 7. Here now, in his triumph, where all things falter, stretched out on the spoils that his own hand spread, as a god self-slain on his own strange altar, death lies dead. A Forsaken Garden by Charles Swinburne. Pop was first down. Between us, we helped Alice. Before joining them, I took a last look at the control panel. The crack and plant button was up again, and there was a blue nimbus on another button. For Los Alamos, I supposed. I was tempted to push it and get away solo, but then I thought, nope, there's nothing for me at the other end, and the loneliness will be worse than what I got to face here. I climbed out. I didn't look at the body, although we were practically on top of it. I saw a little patch of silver off to one side, remembered the gun that had melted. The vultures had waddled off, but only a few yards. We could kill them, Alice said to Pop. Why? He responded. Didn't some Hindus use them to take care of dead bodies? Not a bad idea either. Parsis, Alice amplified. Yeah, Parsis. That's what I meant. Give you a nice clean skeleton in a matter of days. Pop was leading us past the body toward the cracker plant. I heard the flies buzzing loudly. I felt terrible. I wanted to be dead myself. Just walking along after Pop was an awful effort. His girl was running a hidden observation tower here. Pop was saying now. Weather and all that, I suppose. Or maybe setting up a robot station of some kind. I couldn't tell you about her before. 'Cause you were both in a mood to try to rub out anybody remotely connected with the pilot. In fact, I did my best to lead you astray, letting you think I'd been the one to scream and all. Even now, to be honest about it, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing telling and showing you all this, but a man's got to take some risks whenever he does. Say, Pop, I said dully. "Isn't she apt to take a shot at us or something? Not that I'd have minded on my own account. Or are you and her that good friends?" "Nope, Ray," he said. "She doesn't even know me. But I don't think she's in a position to do any shooting. You'll see why. Hey, she hasn't even shut the door. That's bad." He seemed to be referring to a kind of manhole cover standing on its edge just inside the open-walled first story of the cracking plant. He knelt and looked down the hole the cover was designed to close off. "Well, at least she didn't collapse at the bottom of the shaft," he said. "Come on, let's see what happened." And he climbed into the shaft. We followed him like zombies. At least that's how I felt. The shaft was about 20 feet deep. There were foot and hand holds. It got stuffy right away and warmer, in spite of the shaft being open at the top. At the bottom, there was a short horizontal passage. We had to duck to get through it. When we could straighten up, we were in a large and luxurious bomb-resistant dugout, to give it a name, and it was stuffier and hotter than ever. There was a lot of scientific equipment around, and several small control panels reminded me of the one in the back of the plane. Some of them, I suppose, connected with instruments, weather and otherwise, hidden up in the skeletal structure of the cracking plant. And there were signs of occupancy, a young woman's occupancy, clothes scattered around in frivolous ways, and some small objects of art, and a slightly more than life-size head in clay that I guessed the occupant must have been sculpting. I didn't give that last more than the most fleeting look, strictly unintentional to begin with, because although it wasn't finished, I could tell whose head it was supposed to be. The pilot's. The whole place was finished in dull silver like the cabin of the plane, and likewise it instantly struck me as having a living personality. Partly the pilot's and partly someone else's. The personality of a marriage. Which wasn't a bit nice, because the whole place smelt of death. But to tell the truth, I didn't give the place more than the quickest look over, because my attention was riveted almost at once on a long, wide couch with the covers kicked off it and on the body there. The woman was about 6 feet tall and built like a goddess. Her hair was blonde and her skin tanned. She was lying on her stomach and she was naked. She didn't come anywhere near my libido, though. She looked sick to death. Her face twisted toward us was hollow-cheeked and flushed. Her eyes, closed, were sunken and dark-circled. She was breathing shallowly and rapidly through her open mouth, gasping now and then. I got the crazy impression that all the heat in the place was coming from her body, radiating from her fever. And the whole place stunk of death. Honestly, it seemed to me that this dugout was Death's underground temple. The bed, Death's altar, and the woman, Death's sacrifice. Had I unconsciously came to worship Death as a god in the Deadlands? I don't really know. There, it gets too deep for me. No, she didn't come within 1,000,000 miles of my libido, but there was another part of me that she was eating at. If guilt's a luxury, then I'm a plutocrat. Eating at it until I was an empty shell, until I had no props left, until I wanted to die then and there, until I figured I had to die. There was a faint, sharp hiss right at my elbow. I looked and found that, unbeknownst to myself, I had taken the steel cube out of my pocket, and holding it snuggled between my first and second fingers, I'd punched the button with my thumb, just as I'd promised myself I would if I got to really feeling bad. It goes to show you that you should never give your mind any kind of instructions, even half in fun, unless you're prepared to have them carried out whether you approve later or not. Pop saw what I'd done and looked at me strangely. "So you had to die after all, Ray," he said softly. "Most of us find out we have to, one way or another." We waited. Nothing happened. I noticed a very faint, milky cloud a few inches across hanging in the air by the cube. Thinking right away of poison gas, I jerked away a little, dispersing the cloud. "What's that?" I demanded of no one in particular. "I'd say," said Pop, "that's something that squirted out of a tiny hole in the side of the cube opposite the button. A hole so nearly microscopic you wouldn't see it unless you looked for it hard. Ray, I don't think we're going to get your baby A-blast. And what's more, I'm afraid you've wasted something that's damn valuable. But don't let it worry you. Before I dropped those cubes for Atla High, I snagged one. And darn if he didn't pull the brother of my cube out of his pocket. Alice, he said, I noticed a half pint of whiskey in your satchel when we got the salve. Would you put some on a rag and hand it to me? Alice looked at him like he was nuts. But while her eyes were looking, her pliers and her gloved hand were doing what he told her. Pop took the rag and swabbed a spot on the sick woman's nearest buttock and jammed the cube against the spot and pushed the button. It's a jet hypodermic, folks, he said. He took the cube away, and there was the welt to substantiate his statement. Hope we got to her in time, he said. The plague is tough. Now I guess there's nothing for us to do but wait. Maybe for quite a while. I felt shaken beyond all recognition. Pop, you old caveman detective, I burst out. When did you get that idea for a steel hospital? Don't think I was feeling anywhere near that gay. It was reaction, close to hysterical. Pop was taken aback, but then he grinned. I had a couple of clues that you and Alice didn't, he said. I knew there was a very sick woman involved, and I had that bout with Los Alamos fever I told you. They've had a lot of trouble with it, I believe. Some say its spores come from outside the world with the cosmic dust, and now it seems to have been carried to Atla High. Let's hope they found the answer this time. Alice, maybe we'd better start getting some water into this gal. After a while, we sat down and fitted the facts together more orderly. Pop did the fitting mostly. Alamos researchers must have been working for years on the plague as it ravaged intermittently, maybe with mutations and ET tricks to make the job harder. Very recently, they'd found a promising treatment, cure, we hoped, and prepared it for rush shipment to Atla High, where the plague was raging too, and they were sieged in by Savannah as well. Grail was picked to fly the serum, or drug, or whatever it was, but he knew or guessed that this lone woman observer, because she'd fallen out of radio communication or something, had come down with the plague too, and he decided to land some serum for her, probably without authorization. How do we know she's his girlfriend? I asked. Or wife, Pop said tolerantly. Why, there was that bag of woman stuff he was carrying, frilly things like a man would bring for a woman. Who else he'd be apt to make a special stop for? Another thing, Pop said. He must have been using jets to hurry his trip. We heard them, you know. That seemed about as close a reconstruction of events as we could get. Strictly hypothetical, of course. Deathlanders trying to figure out what goes on inside a country like Atla Alamos, and why are sort of like foxes trying to understand world politics, or wolves the Gothic migrations. Of course, we're all human beings, but that doesn't mean as much as it sounds. Then Pop told us how he'd happened to be on the scene. He'd been doing a tour of duty, as he called it, when he spotted this woman's observatory and decided to hang around anonymously and watch over her for a few days, and maybe help protect her from some dangerous characters that he knew were in the neighborhood. Pop, that sounds like a lousy idea to me, I objected. Risky, spying on another person, watching them without their knowledge. Would be the surest way to stir up in me the idea of murdering them. Safest thing for me to do in that situation would be to turn around and run. You probably should, he agreed. For now, anyway, it's all a matter of knowing your own strength and stage of growth. Me, it helps to give myself these little jobs. And the essence of them is that the other person shouldn't know I'm helping. It sounded like knighthood and pilgrimage and the Boy Scouts all over again. For murderers. Well, why not? Pop had seen this woman come out of the manhole a couple of times and look around and then go back down, and he got the impression she was sick and troubled. He'd even guessed she might be coming down with Alamos fever. He'd seen us arrive, of course, and that had bothered him. Then when the plane landed, she'd come up again, acting out of her head. But when she'd seen the pilot and us going for him, she'd given that scream and collapsed at the top of the shaft. He had figured the only thing he could do for her was keep us occupied. Besides, now that he knew for sure we were murderers, he started to burn with the desire to talk to us and maybe help us quit killing, if we seemed to want to. It was only much later, in the middle of our trip, that he began to suspect that the steel cubes were jet hypodermics. Well, Pop had been telling us all this. We hadn't been watching the woman so closely. Now Alice called our attention to her. Her skin was covered with fine beads of perspiration, like diamonds. "That's a good sign," Pop said, and Alice started to wipe her off. While she was doing that, the woman came to in a groggy sort of way, and Pop fed her some thin soup, and in the middle of his doing it, she dropped off to sleep. Alice said, "Any other time, I'd be wild to kill another woman that beautiful. But she has been so close to death that I would feel I was robbing another murderer. I suppose there is more behind the change in my feelings than that, though." "Yeah, a little, I suppose," Pop said. I didn't have anything to say about my own feelings, certainly not out loud. I knew that they had changed, and that they were still changing. It was complicated. After a while, it occurred to me and Alice to worry whether we mightn't catch this woman's sickness. It would serve us right, of course, but plague is plague. But Pop reassured us. "Actually, I snagged 3 cubes," he said. "That should take care of you two. I figure I'm immune." Time wore on. Pop dragged out the harmonica, as I'd been afraid he would, but his playing wasn't too bad. Tenting tonight, When Johnny Comes Marching Home, and such. We had a meal. The pilot's woman woke up again, in her full mind this time, or something like it. We were clustered around the bed, smiling a little, I suppose, and looking inquiring. Being even assistant nurses makes you all concerned about the patient's health and state of mind. Pop helped her sit up a little. She looked around. She saw me and Alice. Recognition came into her eyes. She drew away from us with a look of loathing. She didn't say a word, but the look stayed. Pop drew me aside and whispered, "I think it might be a nice gesture if you and Alice took a blanket and went up and sewed him into it. I noticed a big needle and some thread in her satchel." He looked me in the eye and added, "You can't expect this woman to feel any other way towards you. You know, now or ever." He was right, of course. I gave Alice the high sign and we got out. No point in dwelling on the next scene. Alice and me sewed up in a blanket a big guy who'd been dead a day and worked over by vultures. That's all. About the time we'd finished, Pop came up. "She chased me out," he explained. "She's getting dressed. When I told her about the plane, she said she was going back to Los Alamos. She's not fit to travel, of course. But she's giving herself injections. It's none of our business. Incidentally, she wants to take the body back with her. I told her how we'd dropped the serum and how you and Alice had helped, and she listened." The pilot's woman wasn't long after Pop. She must have had trouble getting up the shaft. She had a little trouble even walking straight. But she held her head high. She was wearing a dull silver tunic and sandals and cloak. As she passed me and Alice, I could see the look of loathing come back into her eyes, and her chin went a little higher. I thought, why shouldn't she want us dead? Right now she probably wants to be dead herself. Pop nodded to us and we hoisted up the body and followed her. It was almost too heavy a load even for the 3 of us. As she reached the plane, a silver ladder telescoped down to her from below the door. I thought, the pilot must have had a key to her some way. So it let down for her, but nobody else. A lovely gesture. The ladder went up after her, and we managed to lift the body above our heads, our arms straight, and we walked it through the door of the plane that way, she receiving it. The door closed, and we stood back, and the plane took off into the orange haze. Us watching it until it was swallowed. Pop said, "Right now, I imagine you two feel pretty good in a screwed-up sort of way. I know I do. But take it from me, it won't last. A day or two, and we're going to start feeling another way. The old way, if we don't get busy." I knew he was right. You don't shake old urge number 1, anything like that easy. "So," said Pop, "I got places I want to show you, guys I want you to meet, and there's things to do, a lot of them. Let's get moving." So there's my story. Alice is still with me. Urge number 2 is even harder to shake, supposing you wanted to. And we haven't killed anybody lately. Not since the pilot, in fact. But it doesn't do to boast. We're making a stab, my language, at doing the sort of work Pop does in the Deathlands. It's tough but interesting. I still carry a knife, but I've given Mother to Pop. He had it strapped to him alongside Alice's screw-in blade. Atla High and Alamos still seem to be in existence, so I guess the serum worked for them generally, as it did for the pilot's woman. They haven't sent us any medals, but they haven't sent a hangman squad after us either. Which is more than fair, you'll admit. But Savannah, turned back from Atla High, is still growing strong. There's a rumor they have an army at the gates of Ouachita right now. We tell Pop he'd better start preaching fast. It's one of our standard jokes. There's also a rumor that a certain fellowship of Deathlanders is doing surprisingly well. A rumor that there's a new America growing in the Deathlands. An America that never need kill again. But don't put too much stock in it. Not too much.
This has been a Colbycast episode.
This work is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license. Share it, link it, blog it, talk about it. As Woody Guthrie said, this song is copyrighted in the U.S. under seal of copyright number 154085 for a period of 28 years, and anybody caught singing it without our permission will be a mighty good friend to earn, cause we don't give a darn. Publish it, write it, sing it, swing to it, yodel it. We wrote it, that's all we wanted to do.